What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? Judah Rad, I'm here with Robo, and I'm here with Rhi, and today we're going to be talking about Empyre, but also the events leading up to Empyre, to include Incoming, Road to Empyre Kree Skrull War, and a whole bunch of other shit that you're going to start to see once Empyre comes around. Damn. So, without further ado, let's get into a little bit of Marvel cosmic history.
Cosmic Marvel began in the 60s when the Fantastic Four first encountered the Skrulls, an aggressive race of aliens that can shapeshift on command. Actually, if you want to get technical, Cosmic Marvel began in 1940 when the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond, first encountered the Martians in Marvel Mystery Comics number 3. But I digress. The Cosmic Marvel landscape we all know and love largely began with Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and a family of 4 fantastic heroes. The Reed family went on to encounter more wacky space characters such as Galactus the Devourer of Worlds, his herald the Silver Surfer, negative zone villains like Blastar and Annihilus, and Ronan the Accuser of the Kree Space Empire. Now, Kree and Skrull have rarely gotten along, and this was in full display during the Kree-Skrull War, a crossover event centered around Mar-Vell, the original Captain Marvel. At the end of this conflict, the Illuminati was secretly formed. It was later revealed in New Avengers that they visited the Kree and Skrulls to send a violent and deadly message: don't mess with Earth. It was during this time that a man known only as Him had debuted on the pages of the Fantastic Four. Created by a mysterious group of scientists called the Enclave, he would later go on to be called Adam Warlock after meeting the High Evolutionary and defending Counter-Earth from the Man-Beast. Eventually, the Mad Titan Thanos would come into possession of a terrible weapon called the Cosmic Cube and would attain godhood, only to be defeated by Warlock, Mar-Vell, and the Avengers. This would be the first of many cosmic threats posed by Thanos. It's not long after that Mantis ascends to a higher plane of existence, becoming the Celestial Madonna, or the Perfect Woman. She is now a cosmic abstract. We are just now getting to know the Eternals, ancient immortal Earthlings put here by the mighty godlike Celestials. At roughly the same time, the Avengers are encountering Korvac, part man, part machine, and also in possession of the Grand Master's cosmic power. The Grand Master is an elder of the universe. Later, Korvac discovers Galactus' ship and gains the power cosmic, making him godlike. It takes all of Earth's heroes to take him down. Over in Westchester, a team of mutants called the X-Men are making a cosmic discovery of their own. Jean Grey has become bonded with something called the Phoenix Force. The Phoenix is a cosmic entity capable of consuming entire stars. Jean Grey loses control of this force, becoming the Dark Phoenix. She eventually is killed in a battle royale trial by combat hosted by the Shi'ar Empire. Or is she? We soon see the Shi'ar again as they put Reed Richards on trial for saving the life of Galactus. We learn that Galactus is a universal constant and that he serves a great and unfathomable purpose, far beyond human comprehension. Soon, most of Earth's heroes and villains are thrust into Battleworld by a being of unprecedented power called the Beyonder. The Beyonder is from the space between universes. For his entertainment, he places every hero and every villain on an amalgamation of worlds he created called Battleworld. This culminates in Dr. Doom stealing the Beyonder's power, his first taste of godhood, but not his last. Thanos soon returns and becomes obsessed with possessing all 6 Infinity Gems. The wielder of all 6 Infinity Gems automatically becomes the most powerful being in existence. Thanos' dream is to slay half of all life to appease his mistress, the embodiment of death. Ultimately, he achieves his dark ambitions, but is defeated by none other than himself and his own hubris. At this point, Marvel Cosmic is in full swing. We see a variety of appearances from our cast, to include the Silver Surfer, Galactus, Thanos, and the other cosmic beings and abstracts. Galactus dies, Galactus comes back to life. Weird, crazy beings from far beyond our dimensional level of comprehension interfere in earthly activities. And at one point, Ronan the Accuser holds the entire world hostage. Remember Mantis, the celestial Madonna? Well, she has a son named Sequoia, otherwise known as Koi. Thanos wants to kill him, so the Avengers and Mantis have to head to the Katati homeworld to save Mantis' son. This is where we start to go a little Thanos nuts. At one point, Thanos creates 5 other Thanos clones. One of them's a Galactus Thanos. It's crazy. After that, he finds the heart of the universe, ending the universe, and then restarting the universe. This is when Thanos starts to feel bad and goes through his Thanos redemption arc, during which time he meets Peter Quill and an imprisoned Beyonder. We have finally reached modern Marvel Cosmic, and it starts with Annihilation. Lord Annihilus of the Negative Zone is blazing through the universe with his annihilation wave, slaughtering everything in sight. A ragtag team of galactic defenders, including the Silver Surfer, Drax the Destroyer, and even the Super Skrull, have to unite to defeat this threat. This is happening while the Hulk is stranded on Sakaar. You see, he was sent there by Reed Richards and the rest of the Illuminati to keep Earth safe, and I think also to conveniently keep him out of the Civil War storyline, which is also happening on Earth. Shh, we'll talk about that another time. So, Annihilation is over, for now, but the universe is still a crazy place. Vulcan, one of the brothers of Cyclops, has ascended to the galactic realm. He is now taking over the Shi'ar Empire and becoming its new emperor. And Annihilation is back. This time, the wave of death spreading across the universe is the Phalanx, and they're being led by a very spoilery secret villain whose name may or may not rhyme with Schmultron. And because nothing is ever peaceful for long on Earth, the entire planet has been infiltrated by the Skrulls, and everyone is starting to find out that nobody is who they thought they were. The secret invasion is repelled, but not without significant consequences. While this is happening, a really badass team consisting of the Silver Surfer, Quasar, Ronan the Accuser, Gladiator, and even Cosmo the Space Dog is blazing its way across the universe, known as the Annihilators. This is where shit gets real weird. The Builders, an ancient race of monstrosities, is on a death course for Earth. Meanwhile, Thanos is using that opportunity to invade planet Earth. All the Avengers, all the time, assemble. This ends with the Terrigen Mist being spread all around planet Earth, causing new Inhumans to sprout up. Nick Fury murders the Watcher, and we are on a collision course to Secret Wars 2015. It turns out that the Beyonder was actually one of many Beyonders. In fact, the first Beyonder that we dealt with back in the original Secret Wars was a child. These adult Beyonders are ending all universes in the multiverse as a form of science experiment. You see, each universe has an Earth, and Earth is the incursion point of all universes. When 2 Earths from separate universes collide, both universes are destroyed unless one of those Earths is destroyed prior to the incursion. If that happens, both universes survive, although one Earth dies. As the Avengers scramble and compromise their morals to stop this, Doom has other plans. Using the power of the Molecule Man, Doom manages to kill the Beyonders and take their power. He uses that power to create his own battle world, one where he is the God Emperor. Eventually, the multiverse is restored and Marvel life continues. Galactus becomes the Lifebringer, and then he goes back to being Devourer. Thanos kills his older self, a whole bunch of Inhumans die, and the Infinity Gauntlet resurfaces. The symbiotes, such as Venom and Carnage, were actually created by an ancient symbiote god. His first symbiote creation, the all-black Necrosword, has been encountered by Thor and Venom, and even the Silver Surfer as he went back in time to face down Null. And if you are still here after all that, that brings us to Incoming, which we will discuss more on the program as we continue our road to Empyre.
Damn, that was a lot of history. I haven't seen that much history since I slept through pretty much all of my history classes. So
I need that though. That's the kind of stuff I need because it's like I want to know most of it, but how you did it just then was way better than the Wikipedia or.
If I was ever a history teacher of myself in some weird parallel universe, I would teach history like that. Like,
right.
The country was founded when George Washington, I don't know, that's probably not how it went down, but,
Let's not give any
something like
examples because we'll get it wrong.
yeah. When Thomas
the
Edison
United
found-
States...
Cool. So, hey, guys, we decided to do a little bit of prepping for Empire since it's still coming out despite the COVID crisis. It will eventually be coming out, and we want to be prepared, and we want you guys to be prepared. So what we have leading up to Empire as part of the official Road to Empire comic book reading list is Incoming, and then Road to Empire Kree Skrull War.
Yeah.
Incoming, so if you've ever read the Marvel .1 one-shots, they come out, it's more of a recent phenomenon, but it started with 2011, there was one in 2011, one in 2012, one in 2014, and then one in 2015. And there's actually been other similar items since then, like Generations. But essentially what a .1 is in Marvelese is it's a anthology one-shot, and it's what you have is a continuous narrative arc loosely bound by maybe like a main event that they're teasing, but it'll also hint at a bunch of other smaller things that are happening in the Marvel Universe over the course of the next year. So what Incoming is it's basically a big, long teaser for everything Marvel is going to be throwing at us in 2020. It's each creative team, so you know how you have all these titles? Each title has a creative team, and each one of those creative teams has a little bite-sized piece within the greater Incoming one-shot. So what we're going to talk about here is the parts that pertain to Empire, because we're trying to prepare you and us for Empire.
Would you agree that you should be able to read this as like a jumping on point for the next big event?
I think that's exactly what it's designed for. I think it's...
Rhi, would you say that it did that well? We'll talk about that later.
Don't.
I mean, spoil it.
So we have it's going to be controversial. But yeah. So I think what it's meant for is it's meant to be a jumping on point for Marvel 2020. You're going to start reading Marvel in 2020. You pick up Incoming. Here's a little bit of a this, that, and the other thing of what to expect. Where it might fall short is it might not really be a good jumping on point because it doesn't really provide you with all the backstory that you might need to understand some of these stories. But that's a different conversation for later in this episode.
So that's Incoming in a nutshell. Now, what we're not going to do is we're not going to go into every single bit of entry in the story, but we are going to show you the connective tissue of Incoming that points towards Empire. So the scene opens up. There's the Masked Raider. So now for the people who don't know the Masked Raider, it's a throwback Golden Age character from Jim Gardley, who then eventually becomes Jerome Hamilton in the Silver Age, and in Marvel 1000 becomes this individual. And we don't really know much else about him, except that his mask has been retconned to be the Eternity Mask, which is actually made out of the substance of the abstract entity named Eternity. So what we know is that there's some power to this mask, and it has drawn the Masked Raider, who, by the way, will get his own series, and that's why he's in Incoming, to this spot. He doesn't know why. He knows has nothing to do with the Enclave, but he's drawn to this spot. Then, with the help of Jessica Jones, because of course she's our superhero detective, finds the code of the Kree Hollow Star and a series of numbers.
So, what does she do? She calls Carol Danvers, and what that leads to is basically just open. Yeah, right. It opens us up to the whole Marvel universe. This is where everyone gets involved, and we get this little sneak peek at every creative team's vision for Marvel 2020 in little bite-sized pieces, from character to character, and finally we arrive at Hulkling and Wiccan. They're having kind of a tender moment, and then Hulkling departs for space.
Yeah.
Which is important later, but back to Reed Richards and Jane Foster. They're performing an autopsy on the corpse, and Reed deduces that it's Beldan, which is a Kree. He also decodes the numbers that they find in the apartment on the back of the photo frame, and it says, "Beware the trees." So they take this information.
Remember that.
Yeah, but remember that shit. Reed and Carol, they confront the Skrull Raxor. He's disguised as a human, and he's eating an apple. And he's like on the roof of this building, and he's like, "Where'd I park? Oh, that's right. It's this massive fucking water tower right here." And he's about to fucking blow off to space as well. And they confront him. They accuse him of murdering Beldan. But it turns out they were working together. They were partners. And Beware the Trees was a message for Raxor. He's shocked, but then this fucking apple tree just like bursts forth from his mouth and kills him in this spectacular fashion. And even the people around him are like, "Is this some kind of Skrull fucking shape-shifting trickery?"
He should have bewared the trees. What's the
Beware
past
the
tense?
apple.
Beware the trees.
It's beware. Yeah.
Beware it.
Anyway.
Yeah, so he's fucking dead. He's for sure dead. He's like got a tree out of his face.
And
Yeah,
it was
he's
so
dead.
brutal. It was like, he's like, "Oh, so then the wording is true," and then blah.
Yeah. He's
And
like,
by the way, we're not talking about like these branches. If you haven't seen it, we're not talking about branches here. We're talking about an entire fucking sequoia.
an apple tree.
Yeah,
Full
yeah,
on apple tree with,
yeah,
like,
full of
hanging out
apples
of
and
it.
everything. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Then change scenes now, where we get to Hulkling and the Super Skrull, Klurt, which I'm pretty sure is the official pronunciation of his name. We have Hulkling, because he's Kree and Skrull, and he's kind of put out this message to lead both of them. He raises his star sword in the air and rallies a massive empire towards the Sol system, which is our system.
Spoiler. Ooh.
Which is the scientific word for our system and not just the video game word for it.
It's also Spanish.
And we knew that.
It's also Spanish for sun. So, I mean, it's all these things.
Shit.
Shit.
Well, you know. Alright, so after Incoming, we've got Road to Empire, the Kree Skrull War Issue 1, which came out this year in March. It has a recap of another book written by Robbie Thompson, which came out March last year, about, it's called Meet the Skrulls, and it's the Warner family that's getting introduced, and they're kind of like secret agents a la Spy Kids, or the Americans, did you guys say?
like the Americans, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So
do
they're
they not have
they're-
Americans in Australia? Do you guys have that?
I've never seen it, but I have seen Spy Kids. Great movie. So this issue, it has 3 important jobs, which I think it does okay with. You guys might agree or disagree. It introduces some major characters. It gives an explanation of existing Marvel lore or the Marvel universe. And then it's also a springboard for the event going forward. So it's got quite a few roles to fulfill within that one issue, which is, big job. But there's a point where the mother is relaying her version of the Kree and the Skrulls' history. Judah, can you elaborate on that? Give us a quick recap.
So, thousands and thousands of years ago, she doesn't say how many years, but we can assume that it's before the Inhumans were created by the Kree Empire, because it's before the Kree Empire. There
Pretty
was
primitive at
the
this
Skrulls.
time, right?
They're primitive, right?
Yep.
So there's the Skrull Empire, and the Skrull Empire is not warlike. So this is a bit of a retcon if she's telling the truth. They are a peaceful empire, and the way that they expand is not through military might and force, but through trade. So this empire comes across the planet of Hala, and living on the Hala is the Kree, but also the Katati. And the Katati are a race of plant tree people, like Groots. They seem they're very Groot-like, kind of. Whatever. I don't know if there's a connection.
Maybe
but
pretty tree-like.
So when the
where did it-
Skrulls, right? When the Skrulls get here, they're only going to trade with the dominant race, and this is the language of the book. They're only going to trade with the dominant race of this planet. So they arrange this contest, and in this contest, they take a small sample of Kree and put them on some random moon with some Skrull technology. And they take a small sample of Katati and they put them on another moon with some Skrull technology. And basically, the contest is who's going to do more in a allotted period of time with minimal manning and Skrull technology. And at the end of this, whoever did better, whatever that means, wins. They're the
Owns
dominant race,
planet, yeah.
and that's who owns the planet, and that's who the Skrulls are going to do trade and business with. Whatever. So they do this contest, and the Kree are doing pretty well. They're building buildings with their hands, and they're these huge, awesome buildings, and it's pretty good. but the Katati, whoo, like flourishing, like completely covering this. They're turning this into like its own planet, this moon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the Kree notice that. They get agitated. They decide that the way that they're going to turn this in their favor is to preemptively attack the Katati.
Mm-hmm.
So they slaughter the Katati.
Mm-hmm.
They wipe them out. And then they attack the Katati moon where they're doing all this shit. They wipe them out. And that makes them the de facto winner. But they don't stop there. They attack the Skrulls with their own technology.
That's right.
And the Kree Skrull conflict is born. And this conflict is so ruinous to the Skrulls that they alter their entire culture from a peace-loving, trade-based culture to a warlike, conquering type culture. And this is where this Kree Skrull conflict begins. And it continues years into the future till we finally get to the Marvel event Kree Skrull War, which was when the Kree and the Skrulls are battling each other with Earth as their battleground, their battlefield. During this event, and this is still being told as kind of like a flashback by this mother of this family. You find out that
something interesting. Sorry to interrupt you, but you said something interesting about how it's a good depiction of two oppressed people, like coming in. Yeah.
So I was going to get into that later, but I can get into that now. What we have, what the Skrulls are they're colonists. They're colonials. They might not be warlike, but they are trade-based, and what they're doing is exploitative because they're picking winners in various other countries, or various other planets, excuse me, and they're also picking losers. They're picking winners and losers. So it's not only showing the damage that could be caused by a colonial empire imposing themselves on a more primitive race of people on these planets, but they're also creating discord between the two races, because by picking winners and losers, they're creating this bitter rivalry and hatred and conflict.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
So,
putting all the recipes in for a war, so that, and you can hear it in the mother's voice when she's like, "We were just these peace-loving people, and look what they did here." And isn't that crazy that they turned out that way? Sure.
Right. The Skrulls oppress economically the Kree and the Katati, forces the Kree to attack the Katati, and then it bites the Skrulls in the ass because now the Kree are fighting the Skrulls, and now we're in a state of war.
That's right.
Sounds familiar. I don't know. Might have to look into that. So brings us to the Kree Skrull War. Mar-Vell, the original Captain Marvel, Mar-Vell, which I guess is why they called him Captain Marvel. He has a romance with a Skrull, and he's Kree, she's Skrull. They have a child. That child ends up being Hulkling. So check this out. While this is happening, maybe even slightly before this is happening, in fact, probably significantly before, so the Katati are not wiped out. The Katati, they survived in some capacity, and they exist on this other planet that is called Katati. After the Kree Skrull War, like years later, Mantis, who is the Celestial Madonna, happens in another story. She's the perfect woman. She goes to this Katati homeworld where she has a relationship, a sexual relationship with a Katati that's also possessed by the soul of a lover of hers, which different story for another time. She has sex with a Katati. So they have a child, and this child is Sequoia, otherwise known as Koi. And this is not... we'll get into more detail about Sequoia later, but basically he is the Celestial Messiah, and he is he's got powers. He's a very advanced, very powerful, almost a cosmic abstract, and he can control plants everywhere. Incredibly powerful. And because he's an avatar of life, guess what? Thanos, the avatar of death, goes there to go kill him. The Avengers stop it. It's a whole event. It happens shortly after the Kree Skrull War.
Would Koi have the power to make an apple tree explode out of a Kree, maybe? I wonder if he could do that if he wanted to.
I think he would. And I'm glad you asked, because when we first meet Koi, he's kind of an asshole. He's not a bad guy, but he's like a sullen teenager. He's like if I had a big piece of hair in my face, I'd be doing this all the time.
Yeah.
You don't know me, Mom.
You don't know my pain.
That's the kind of guy he is, and it's funny.
You
'cause
told
he's-
that story so beautifully, but all I can think is like, if I was fucking a tree, would I say, "Did you get wood?" Like, there's just so many. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
so
that's
many
right.
Katati puns.
Are
that
there
you could put in
splinters
there.
involved with this whole process?
Yeah.
I don't. It
Exactly.
Sounds, it sounds,
Like, do you
there's a
bark up the wrong tree if you get rejected? Like, how does that work?
Get out.
I'm stumped. Right?
Get out.
I'll show myself.
So here's the thing about this story. Here's the thing about this story that I really like. It had some like twists and turns, right? So usually, sometimes I read these kind of lead ups, and it's always like this. Well, let's be honest. Sometimes they're presented as like kind of almost like a commercial. Like, I'm gonna buy this thing. You want me to read the next event? But this was actually pretty good. So during that whole thing that he's telling, the way they present it is the mother telling the daughters these stories. Sometime during that whole thing, another Kree, like assassin, tries to blow up the mother and the Warner mother and the daughters. And you think, I'm not gonna lie. By the way, the art's beautiful. We'll talk about that in a second. But you see the hotel room just like a scene out of The Americans. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. And it just explodes. And so I'm reading. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they're gone. Turns out one of the daughters is pretty powerful and turned into something and protected them, blah, 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 right? They find out who the assassin was somehow. And as we get towards the end of the book, boom, kicks down the door. There's another version of undercover family on Earth, but they're Kree.
The other Americans.
Yeah, the other Americans. And so they'd be the Russians, I guess, in this story. And so they're sitting there, and they have children, and they look, and the mother, decides not to kill them. But, she's like, okay, we won't kill them. And then all of a sudden a call comes out, and they're like, bzz, bzz, bzz. She pulls out her little communicator thing, and there's Hulkling. Hulkling is sending out a message to everyone, Kree and Skrull, saying, put your shit down. We're joining forces. The Empires have joined forces, and we are on our way to the Sol System.
So let's look back at incoming now, taking what we just learned.
Yeah.
So here's what we know. We know that the Katati are on Earth because they've been seeded all over the galaxy.
Yes.
There are Katati on Earth. We also know that the Katati fucking hate the Skrulls,
Yes.
and they fucking hate the Kree.
For good reason.
We also know that Hulkling is currently in space, the Emperor of the galaxy. He is the leader of the massive Skrull Empire, the massive Kree Empire.
Mm-hmm.
He's raising his Star Sword, and he's leading all of them to Earth. So speculative, but highly inferred.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he leading this massive armada to Earth?
Yeah. So one part that we forgot about too. So during that whole thing where the Katati are forced underground, they're almost wiped out. There's a small part of the story where there's this small cabal of Kree or Skrull, right? Yeah, good guys though, good guys that help the Katati escape. And they replant the Katati, and they make it very specific to say that one of the places where they're replanted, so they can hide amongst our own plant life, is Earth.
Right.
So we know the Katati are here. Go back to what we were talking about with the two that are now dead from incoming that were here as partners. Were they here as partners to show up and tell the other cells that hey, we're joining forces? The Katati finds out, maybe even Koi, this is all speculation, maybe even Koi, and kill the dude that we saw the masked raider over, and then makes an apple tree fucking explode out of this dude at the end.
I'm genuinely surprised, given deforestation and all the terrible shit that humanity does to plants, that Katati hasn't kicked Earth's
this
ass
earlier.
yet.
Yeah.
Well, we're better to hide than a planet that like ours. You know what I
That's
mean?
fair.
That's
fair.
right. Yeah.
So another speculation here, but there's this old saying when it comes to fiction: if you're watching a movie or reading a book or something like that, if you see a gun on the wall, someone's gonna take it off the wall and shoot it. And what that really means is that nothing is an accident. If you see something in something, it's there for a reason. We're dealing with a race of plant beings and the whole reason that the Skrulls are spying on Earth is part of this operation. It gets mentioned in both Incoming and the Kree Skrull, the Road to Empire book, is that they're there for something called Project Blossom. I don't think they would accidentally call it Project Blossom if we're also dealing with a race of plant people. I think that's probably deliberate, and it really what it implies is the mission of going to Earth. Hulkling and the Skrull and Kree going to Earth. Why are they going to Earth? Well, there's spies on Earth taking part in something relatively mysterious called Project Blossom. Mm-hmm. It might have to do with the Katati. That's all I'm saying.
This is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Yeah. So, Judah, you helped Robo and I through this reading, and you told us that the 2 essential titles were Incoming and Road to Empire. But are there other things that people should read in preparation for this Empire event? What do you think?
So these one-shots do a pretty good job of preparing you, and really this video is gonna get you set up, and you probably don't need anything else. But if you do want to do some background reading to really understand these stories, I would start with the Kree Skrull War. After that, I would read the Celestial Madonna Avengers arc. I would read Avengers Celestial Quest. That's where you're going to meet Mantis and Sequoia. And then I would read the Secret Invasion. Besides that, I think you're good. If you read those things, you have a solid background. Although it's not really necessary considering that you have this video and these one-shots.
Just for those who don't plan on buying the Road to Empire, because this video will just tell you everything you need to know. On the back of the back cover, it even adds Fantastic Four Visionaries by John Byrne and the Young Avengers. And I think that Young Avengers is probably more to let you know who Hulkling is.
Yes, that'll introduce you to Hulkling.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So let's be honest. I know that at the beginning of this whole thing, we want God to come, right? We want Null to arrive. We're big Donny Cates fans, and so when we heard about Empire, we might have had some drinks with him. We just had some drinks with Donny Cates, and he told us about it. And I tell you what, we've been excited for that event. And when we heard about the Empire, we were just like, maybe it'll be tight. So what do you think now?
So we were hanging out with Donnie, and we were like, he was like, yeah, man, you guys better get excited because the summer event's going to be huge. And we were like, oh, Empire? And he was like, Marvel thinks it's Empire, but what they don't realize is that it's going to be my shit, and God is here. It was badass. It was a chill.
By the way, still excited about it, but I'm less excited about what's going to happen to my bank account because now I'm also excited about Empire.
Right. Yeah. Empire. I'm sure Empire's going to be cool, and just the battle. I like old shit where old school problems reemerge and they come back, and I like the whole idea of a great wrong was done thousands of years ago, and the showdown is happening tonight. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like this. I like this. Katati are back, and they're gonna fuck up the Kree and the Skrulls. I'm on Team Katati.
They're not gonna win, but I think we're gonna be made to feel empathetic about it when they do lose.
I think we're gonna find out that the Katati are much more formidable than anybody would have guessed.
Especially
but who knows?
Koi leading them, the Celestial Messiah.
So I am excited to see the new Koi, the more recent. Like, what is Koi like now? Last time we saw him, he was a fucking teenager. You know what I mean? So is he a warlord now, or is he like some kind of like Adam Warlock, like God, like Jesus dude? Who knows?
Yeah. What do you think, Rhi? What do you think?
What do I think? Look.
Yes.
Here's the thing, guys, that you always say on these podcasts or videos or whatever we do that I'm the indie chick. I read a lot of indie. I've read a fair chunk of Marvel. Like, I read all the women-led storylines. I like Captain Marvel. I like Spider-Gwen. I like Miss Marvel, blah, blah, blah. However,
I hear the hate coming. I hear this storm of hate coming out.
No, it's interesting because, like, I wanted to like it a lot. And the art was, like, top-notch in both of these stories that we read, but this is my issue with it, right? I'm just going to quickly show, this is Judah explaining the story to me because I'm like, what is happening? Because I have no Marvel knowledge, right? So poor Judah sitting there, like trying to explain to me why Jane Foster isn't dead, why Murdoch isn't Daredevil anymore. And it's because I think, like a lot of people, we go through patches where we read a lot and we don't. So if you haven't kept up to date, this anthology in particular, the incoming, is going to be confusing. But if you have any questions on the series, or like things aren't making sense to you, I was going to say, drop us a comment, leave your question for us, because Judah is like this galaxy brain Marvel dude, and Robo too at times just like blows my mind with how much knowledge they both have. But not everyone has that when they're reading these books. So I think Wikipedia is your friend.
Have friends and
yeah,
family.
some people have
And
friends.
lives.
Yeah,
Jobs.
Yeah.
that's it.
Lives. Yeah.
Jobs that they have to go to. So
That's it. But like,
Losers.
we like making this content for you. So if there's anything that you are reading through and you're like, what? I don't understand this, like I was today, let us know, because Judah can probably answer it. Or, join us on Facebook, because there's a lot of shit talked about on there too that I never understood before I joined those groups.
yeah, Facebook, Reddit, Discord. Leave a comment if you want to have ideas for other videos we can make, because I'll tell you, sometimes we sit here and I'm like, what are we gonna do this week? But something like Empire we gotta do.
Yep. I'm excited for it. Like I read Secret Wars way back when it came out. I'm excited for this event. I think it's going to be good. Yeah.
And I'm gonna buy every title. I'm gonna watch YouTube videos about what else is happening, but we'll make
that's
YouTube
exactly
videos
it.
about what we buy. It's gonna be
Well, see, this is what we were all talking about before, right? Like Marvel, we know is successful because they do this. They segment stories out. It's almost like games with DLC these days. They're like, if you want to know what happened in this part, you read this book. The issue that I said, and Judah wrapped this up nicely in a neat little bow, is you could also have just a brief one-sentence summary of what did happen instead of pushing someone to buy another book. That's my biggest.
And they used to, you know what I mean? Like Marvel, their approach has changed many times over the years. It used to be like old, like Stan Lee would leave you little notes in the corner, like, "Hey, you remember this? The reason Spider-Man's pissed off is because way back in Spider-Man number 3, he fucking had hemorrhoids or something." You know what I mean? Right. Stan Lee would be telling you what was happening, and now they're like, "Oh, you want to know why this happened? We're not going to tell you. You're going to have to buy this entire fucking comic.
Buy more
and read
books."
it
Yep. That's
to
all.
figure out."
Joke's on you, I have Google.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I understand it. Like, I get wrapped into the stories like everybody else, and I've done the thing of like buying all the tie-ins, but you can't, especially in this economy, do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up everything. Again, like Rhi said, leave a comment if you have any other questions or suggestions, and check us out on the links that you see in the description. You guys have a good one.
Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and be free. Follow our links and watch our show because you want to and not because of the threats. Thank you for watching Judah, Robo, and Rhi. We talk about comics, movies, and TV. Sometimes we have notable guests, and sometimes it's just us. But we're also cool.